In this episode of Idea City.
So Second Life at its core, as Moses aptly described, is this infinitely malleable plastic thing. Everything from the jewelry to the belt, to the ring on the finger, to the glasses, to the wall behind her, all of those things are hand-built by the people inside Second Life. You literally build, spray paint, sculpt those things in-world, in real time with other people, and that is a big deal.
Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
But given how well the last one turned out, who the hell knows? How many of you have tried? Why are you laughing like that? How many of you have tried Second Life? Oh, a good number, a good number. Well, for the larger portion of you that haven't, I'm going to make a little effort to explain what it is. It's not a game. There are no dragons to slay. There's no people to kill or do any of the other traditional things that you do in video games. The company is San Francisco-based, and it describes itself as an online digital world imagined, created, and owned by its residents. Linden Labs provides a free basic avatar. Now, I haven't been on the site in a fair while, so I'm going from my own experience. A 3D virtual representation of the user in either male or female form. Of course, Second Life acquired its most notorious reputation in the realm of sex. So you can buy beds that have built into them various kinds of sexual positions, some of them quite imaginative. Groans cost extra, but taking your clothes off is free. He's very clever, Philip Rosedale. So I think it takes quite the mind to really play God and recreate and populate an extraordinarily intricate world, and that mind belongs to Philip Rosedale.
Second Life is a hard thing to explain. It's just tough. It's always a challenge to say what it is, and actually I think that's one of the things that makes it so magical, and I always love to hear somebody try to give the elevator pitch, so to speak, other than me. You know, outside there, I noticed that someone had put on the cork board the little things that you have to, things you want to get out of coming here, or where you want to go next, those lists of 10. And the first two on one that I noticed earlier today, I think, was, the first one was something like, it was like, meet my beloved. And then the second one was, find, I think whoever did it can correct me, find another Earth.
Both of those were mine.
So keep that in mind as I talk to you. Find another Earth, meet your beloved. Both of those things are things that are fairly, they're fairly intrinsic to this concept of virtual worlds and how virtual worlds, I think, are likely to change us. But, at a high level, something that you may not have thought about in all this discussion of futures and technology and global warming and the environment, all of these sort of big changes that are coming, one that you may not be considering and that I hope to sort of make you find interesting, is the very real possibility that we may, in fact, not practically speaking, find another world. We may actually build it. And I believe that the technology that's coming and the things that we already can do today in Second Life shows us an ability to essentially recreate the world, but rather than sort of finding it out there in space, we can actually build it in the sort of inner space of computers. Speaking about that, my own sort of history, I think every idea or every new company that does something genuinely new has usually got some sort of a creator's, mythology behind it. My own is not social media, nor really social anything. I was a kid who, when I wanted, some of you may have heard this story, when I wanted, in high school, I wanted my door I imagined that it would be so cool if my door went straight up rather than opening, a la Star Trek. I just thought that would be neat. I was a kid who'd been doing electronics and computers since I was little, and so I cut a hole in the roof, in my ceiling, and put a garage door opener up in the attic, and used that garage door opener to pull the door open up and down. Now, my point about that, and I also, when Barth was giving the wonderful presentation with the incredibly cool science experiment being dragged by the wind and a parachute across Alaska or across the tundra there, it reminded me of something that really drove the ideas behind Second Life, which was, it's really easy to imagine a lot of super cool stuff that you'd like to do in this world, like amazing things you'd build, or cathedrals 10 times as large as those we already have, or the ability to fly, right? But we can't practically, I'm not even watching what's behind me. I'll just watch your eyes and stuff, and if I need to really move fast, you let me know. The thing that I was obsessed by was the idea that you should be able to use computers to essentially redo the laws of physics, to create a world that has the properties of our own to a large extent, but that has the neat concept built into it that you can make things there, and that everyone can make things, and that they can do this together and show these things to each other, and essentially construct, build, dream, imagine much more rapidly than they can with Legos or with a 101 electronics kit or even with basic programming. That was the thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to build what was effectively the world's biggest Lego kit. And 1999, when the two technologies, broadband and really good 3D graphics, came around, I left my job at Real Networks, and I came back to San Francisco, and I started the company right away with the crazy question of just whether such a place could actually be built. So Second Life, at its core, as Moses aptly described, is this infinitely malleable plastic thing. Everything from the jewelry to the belt, to the ring on the finger, to the glasses, to the wall behind her, all of those things are hand-built by the people inside Second Life. You literally build, spray paint, sculpt those things in-world, in real time with other people, and that is a big deal. I mean, it's quite a thing. Although everyone can look like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, what if everybody can? What do you do next? What's your encore when you can just look like that?
Get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at www.ideacityonline.com. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
Many of the experiences that don't involve touch or smell or taste that we're having in the real world today, we are about to move into the virtual world. You don't have to get on an airplane to sit down at a table with your voice and have a meeting with 10 other people or 100 other people in Second Life today. That transformation is just basically driven by enabling technology, and it is not stoppable, like a lot of other stuff that we've been talking about these last 2 days. So I believe that it is very likely that we're going to take a good deal of the human experience that we're having today and basically digitize it. So I guess then the question, sort of phase 2 that I thought of here was, well, is that a good thing or bad thing? And I think that I hope I can convince you, and I can certainly convince you over beers after this, maybe, that it's a really good thing. And it's certainly, the fact that it's a good thing is what keeps me getting up in the morning and coming to work, now that this thing's, at least to some extent, become successful. So as you've seen in these photographs, you can be anything in Second Life. So what's the effect on a person of having an avatar? What is the effect of you on having this projected digital identity? Well, it's profoundly empowering in a way that you probably wouldn't guess until you jump in there. One of the reasons for this is that it's so plastic. You can change your avatar. You can sculpt it. I mean, you're seeing from the pictures, hopefully well. You can sculpt the tiniest detail of what you look like. You can buy a banana. When you take an action figure and you hold it, and I say, this is your action figure and this is mine, and I say, now let's make them kiss. Let's come up and hold them near each other. Think about that for a minute, how that feels if we did that. How does it feel, right? It feels like we're really there with each other somehow, even though it's just we're holding the dolls. That is one of the magical things about Second Life. The fact that you're projected into this digital identity is extremely significant and powerful. It's a very deep experience. Your identity is projected into this digital space, and it has a profound effect on you. You, for example, although everyone can look like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, what if everybody can? What do you do next? What's your encore when you can just look like that? Well, your encore is essentially to make your personality more fine-grained. So maybe you're Brad Pitt with an earring. What happens inevitably is that you begin sort of projecting aspects of your personality, aspects that maybe you're not even comfortable exposing initially, but you find out, into this digital identity. So when you run into somebody in Second Life, you're immediately learning about them in a way that, frankly, in the real world, we can't. In the real world, we can hide behind, oh, well, I live next to the Gap, and so that's where I shop, or I can't afford the clothes I want, or whatever. That, in a way, those are sort of inefficiencies. They hide us from each other. But in a virtual world, you have this incredibly immediate, powerful experience of sort of being in there. Another great empowering story, and very fitting the demographic. About half the people who use Second Life are men, and about half are women. The average age is 32. 65% are not in the United States. The United States is about 30 to 35% at any given time. Majority is Europe, people using Second Life. Majority of those people, or I don't know if it's a majority exactly, but don't speak English. So when you go in there, you walk into a bar in Second Life and you're confronted by 5 or 6 different spoken and text languages in a lot of cases. Amazing experience. The last people story I wanted to tell was Ruth's mom. Ruth is a woman who works for us, and she told me the greatest story. She's a big Second Life user, found us that way, like a lot of the people that work at Linden Lab, but her mom is a huge Second Life user. And she was in World one day at a party, and her mom came to the party, and of course she knows her mom's Second Life name, knows that it's her real mom. And her mom shows up at the party very scantily clad. And so Ruth is like instant messaging her mom, who's at the same party, and saying like, geez, Mom, can you do something about that? And her mom's like, piss off. I'm living my own life. Her mom's 86. True story. In fact, talking about the sort of Zoomers here, the Zoomers. The older you are, the more time you have to dive into Second Life, the more people tend to use it. So in fact, the hours of use goes up sharply and substantially as the people that are using it are physically older. So there's a very significant bias in the use there, and I think that says something about the experience. Being in a virtual space, for example, having a meeting in a novel virtual location, a virtual Fiji, if you will, is extremely powerful in terms of your ability to remember what the content of the meeting was.
Get the latest Idea City news instantly. Follow us on Twitter. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
A final thing that I'd say about Second Life and about, what you're thinking about here is I believe that more tactically, sort of before we've digitized the whole world, we're going to reach a point where where I think the majority of use of the internet, which today is basically, the web and email, and I guess the emerging, monster that is Facebook and social media, the sort of default things that we're doing with the web today, I believe that the biggest thing that we're going to be doing with the web in 10 years is something like this. It's this experience or a descendant thereof, whatever it becomes. The reason for that is multiple. One is that the web requires the knowledge of a language. Realistically, the internet today separates the world into several large language categories. You cannot surf Chinese websites unless you read Chinese, because you have to click on what are mostly text links to be able to read those websites. so you can't do it if you speak English. But the China and the Japan and the foreign cities and the Italys and the Rome that is being built in Second Life, you can walk into, you can teleport to and wander around in the same way that you do this with an airplane. So you will be able to essentially engage with people, meet people, have that multilingual experience. In fact, there's little translators. One of the big businesses that you can in world is people selling these little translator heads-up displays that convert that instantly, I was actually going to log in. See, I knew I'd run out of time just talking about all this stuff. I was going to log in and do that, like go talk to somebody and chat with them. You instantly see my text. If I text chat, hello, my name is Philip, where's the bathroom? Not a question you typically need to ask there, but hit enter and you watch my text get Google converted or something. There's a bot that the thing uses to kanji and spit out the kanji. And I've had conversations. I've sat in World and talked to a Japanese guy telling what a beautiful house he had and where did he get the trees and how did he, decide to arrange his lawn furniture. The guy is speaking to me in Japanese and I'm speaking to him in English. I mean, it's an experience it gives you chills. I mean, at least it does me. Another fact is that our memories of three-dimensional things are far superior to our memories, say, of web links or of things that we even read. Let me give you a simple example of that. Essentially, being in a virtual space, for example, having a meeting in a novel virtual location, a virtual Fiji, if you will, is extremely powerful in terms of your ability to remember what the content of the meeting was. This is a property that's sometimes called the memory palace. People that want to remember large amounts of things use a technique where they imagine a big palace that they've got information arranged in. So this idea of the memory palace, or this idea that 3D space is more memorable, manipulable, emotional, it's more bound to our memories and experiences, is, I think, one of the things that's going to drive people toward essentially converting the internet, if you will, converting information into this kind of a form. And so I think that we are going to see a translation, especially as interface technologies get better, from the sort of pictures and text world that we're in today to a real one. The last point about that is presence. Tying it all back to sort of the social experience. When you're on Amazon shopping for a digital camera, there are 100 other people on that page with you right at that second, the very page you're on. You can't talk to them and ask them, have you tried one of these cameras before? In a normal place where you shop, you can. That's one of the key differences here, that the virtual world and the way that you can use the internet with virtual worlds makes it implicitly social. You can't escape the fact that there are simply other people there, wherever it is you're consuming something. So that's a final thought to leave you with. So, yeah, I guess as a summary, take note as you think about all these world-changing technologies. Even as we think about AI, which I think is a bit farther out, take note of the fact that I think we are very close today to a situation where we are going to take all of this and move it in there. So, thank you very much.
Philip, thank you. Thank you. I do want to ask you what your definition of success is. You're saying that 300,000 users at any given time online spending 4 hours a day with you.
Yeah.
Is somewhat successful? Is that your...
Thank you. I really think it's a good thing for people. I mean, I didn't get enough time. I could talk for hours about that. But
take another few minutes. Explain it.
I believe that the impact that this has on people is no less than the printing press or the web itself when it first came out. I think that its empowering ability to let people make money, to let people meet each other and not kill each other around the world is something that, I mean, it's really moving. So success to me is 1 billion people using it.
Modest fellow. I did want to ask you one other question, which is sex has this peculiar role of being a driver for the introduction of new technology.
Everyone.
Right? I mean, when the VCR first came out, really, what was it that was the first business? It was porn. Because finally people didn't have to go to a public theater and so on. The introduction of the movie was really, a replacement for burlesque, right? In those smaller towns that didn't have burlesque theaters and so on.
And instant messaging.
Exactly. So your site is primarily associated with sex activity, or at least that's what the journalism does to you. But I'm assuming that as it goes on in the same way that the other media eventually developed into other applications. So can you take a minute and tell us where Lyndon is headed?
Sure. On Wednesday, last Wednesday, I gave a commencement speech for a college called Bryant and Stratton College in the U.S., which the commencement speech was given in Second Life because their students had done the majority of their coursework and therefore, were getting their degrees inside Second Life. And so I wrote a speech, it was fun, and gave the commencement address. We are now seeing this transition. Every medium has art, sex, free expression, entrepreneurialism as the initial drivers when people don't know quite what to make of it yet. And then as it moves forward, they transition it into education and then into small group and then into sort of large company business uses. I tell you, we're right now at where the educators really kind of get it, some of them. There's hundreds of universities using Second Life. People at work, like our work, for example, are just starting to use it. So I think that transition's happening. I think that if you go in Second Life today, I mean, sure, you're going to see sex, you're going to see the ability to meet somebody and get married to them. But even from the beginning, just like with the web, it's been awash with, every possible strange, different thing that people could do with it. And it's just that, of course, I mean, sex is fun. I mean, everybody pulls that out and, and wants to see it and wants to talk about it. So the same is true here. And I suppose if it wasn't, something would be wrong, right?
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. This is a smart audience and a diverse audience. I think that it's a perfect, kind of a place to talk about what I do. I think explaining Second Life and what I do for a living is tough, with any audience. And I just like the fact that, it's such a thoughtful bunch of people that you don't really, I think, worry as much about the direct, say, business or the, immediate viability of an idea. You can go and talk about where it goes and what it's going to mean. And hey, if it does work, what's going to happen next?